I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and welcome to my show, The Dr. Leaf Show. If you haven't yet subscribed, just press the little subscribe button and you'll be notified of new shows coming out. And also you'll be kept up to date on all things related to the mind and mental health. In today's show, I want to start by asking you a question. Have you ever felt like your brain's been switched off? Like literally switched off? You know those situations where you actually can't think properly. There's all these things going on around you, all these things happening, so much pressure from the various different demands of your life, and you kind of feel like you can't think. Well, this is fairly common, as we all know, and sometimes we feel like we can't get out of that. And one of the things that I want to tell you about today is that we have so much power in our brain and so much ability to control those moments and really switch our brain on. Another thing that I found, because I practiced clinically for 25 years and I've been doing brain research for 30 years, still do brain research, still do clinical trials and so on. But one of the things that I found was really a big question that I got asked a lot by my patients, and something that my own family have asked me, is that how do you actually expand your knowledge? Is there a way of improving your brain? And does IQ increase? And I mean, these are really good questions, and these are things that I would work on in my research and in my practice. And the answer to that, by the way, is yes. You can expand your mind. You can change your brain. You can increase your intelligence. And it all comes down to a matter of how you use your mind, because your mind is separate from your brain. Your mind and your brain are not the same thing. They're two separate things, but they work in a very integrated way. So the mind needs the brain needs the mind, and they work together in a very integrated way. And the mind works through the substrate of the brain. So the brain's physical and your mind works through it. Like it literally pushes the signals through the brain. And that's what's happening at the moment as you're watching and as you're listening. You've got all these signals, auditory signals and electromagnetic signals and all these different signals that are going into your brain and activating your brain, and your mind is going into action. Look at this really cool slide that I'm going to show you on the screen now. And this slide is of a brain. You'll have a look at it. This brain is firing up. It's a real actual slide of a real actual human brain of a person who's alive, and they're connected to this amazing brain technology, and it's actually showing how the brain is responding to a person thinking. So that person was dead, we wouldn't see that activity that you're seeing on the screen at the moment, but the fact that they're alive, it's showing that the brain is firing up in response. There are signals moving through the mind. Now here's the wonderful thing. These signals are what you generate and you control. So you control the quality of those signals going through your brain, and in response your brain responds by building structure. And how does it build structure? Through genetic expression. So just quick biology lesson back to school days, very simple level. What is genetic expression and so on? You have your DNA, and your DNA are deep down inside the nucleus of your cells. And the DNA has got a genetic code on it, and the little genetic code is basically needs to switch on and off. So it switches on and off at various different times, constantly over a 24-hour cycle for your whole life, making what you need to keep alive. Now, it's a really simple explanation of genetics, but it's a very powerful one, because the quality of your genetic expression is based upon how you think. So when you think in the correct way, you influence how those genes are actually working. Now that's powerful, okay? So you influence your genetic expression. When I say influence your genetic expression, your thinking, your mind in action, your thinking, feeling, and choosing, all that stuff is generating this amazing signal through your brain, and you are actually causing a physical reaction inside of your brain, and you're building stuff. You're building what your body needs to stay alive, the enzymes and the proteins and all the things your body needs to stay alive, which are constantly being reproduced by your genetic expression. And then you're also building thoughts. Thoughts are also made of proteins, and they have these chemicals and things attached. This is a simple explanation, but it's real. And thoughts look like trees, which is why I need to explain why I have what I have on the table. On this side, you see beautiful roses, and you see the branches and the leaves, and this represents healthy thoughts. And on this side, you see a little wiry looking tree, and this represents toxic thoughts. So I use this analogy to make this easier to understand. What we know from the research in the brain is that you build these trees inside your brain, and the scientists call these trees the magic trees of the mind. And I love that. In fact, this name can be attributed to a really incredible doctor who died just recently in her 90s called Dr. Marion Diamond. And she worked right up until she died. I think she was 92 or 94 when she died. And she discovered the magic trees. She's the one who came up with the name, the magic trees of the mind. And they are magic because the trees of the mind that she's referring to are the physical trees that you build into your brain to hold your thoughts, and they keep changing, and that's why they're magic, because every time you think, you change them. Every experience you have, you change these trees in your brain. So your memories are thoughts, and they're stored in these trees in the brain, and these trees constantly change as a result of you gaining more experience. So every day you have more experience, and every day you change the quality of your genetic expression, and you add to to what you're building inside of your brain. So you really do turn mind stuff, so stuff from signals from outside, listening to people, doing stuff, thinking, all that stuff that doesn't feel tangible, you turn that into tangible stuff through your choices. So this comes back to switching on your brain. I'm telling you this whole long explanation about trees and thoughts in your brains that look like trees and how you build them with your mind. So your mind is the signal, and your mind is your thinking, feeling, and choosing. So your mind contains all this action of thinking, feeling, and choosing. I know it's kind of almost out there, but when we talk about mind in action, we're talking about your ability to think and to feel and to choose. And when you do that, that's your mind in action, and it causes all this great stuff to happen. Mind in action produces results. So already I'm sure you're thinking, well, if that's the case, this is pretty hopeful. It is. It's incredibly hopeful. This means that you influence how your brain structure is functioning, how it looks. You're influencing the quality of your cells. You're influencing the quality of the health of every cell in your body. Do you know you're made up of 75 to 100 trillion cells? Your brain and your body, that's a lot of cells. You're made up of somewhere between 75 to 100 trillion cells. Now that is a lot of cells. And you control the quality of expression of every single one of those cells. Which brings me to my next point. And that is that you may be thinking, well, I mean, this is all great, but how on earth do I do that? Well, you have in your mind this incredible ability that you have to think, feel, and choose and create matter out of your mind is divided into two parts. And the one part is a conscious part, and the other part is the non-conscious part. So your mind's got these two parts to them, the conscious and the non-conscious. And I developed a theory nearly 30 years ago based on how this conscious and non-conscious mind works and how these thoughts form. I call it the science of thought. It's got a fancy name. You'll see in my book, Switch on Your Brain, I have a picture of that theory, and I have a basic explanation of that theory. In fact, you'll see it appearing in all the books that I write. I've written a lot of books about how to control your mind and get the most out of your mind and improve your brain and improve your life and improve your lifestyle. And I have this theory in there. And the reason I put it into all of my books with various different explanations is to help you understand that this is very real. You know, science is an amazing and exciting way of understanding how you function and how to get the best out of you. Science is not this airy-fairy thing. Science is knowledge, and knowledge helps us to understand how we work. So that's what I'm trying to help you do. I'm trying to help you understand how you work, specifically how your thoughts work, your thought life, and the power of your thought life in influencing yourself. So to come back to the conscious and the non-conscious mind, I have a whole great theory, and this theory is based on how when we think, we change our brain, and therefore we change what we say and what we do. And I mentioned a few moments ago that we have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind. And this is very complicated, and as I go through the different shows, I'm going to elaborate on this more. But for today, I just want you to understand the difference. Okay, so the conscious mind is awake when you're awake. So when you go to sleep, your conscious mind goes to sleep. Your conscious mind is where you're very aware and you deliberately and intentionally are aware of what's going on around you. We don't always use our conscious mind like we should, and that I'm going to explain as well. Your non-conscious mind, on the other hand, works 24/7. So whether you're awake or asleep, your non-conscious mind, it's not the same as your subconscious mind, your non-conscious mind is working 24/7. Your non-conscious mind is massive, quantum in nature, filled with energy, not bound by time and space. So present, past, and future doesn't exist in your non-conscious mind. And your conscious mind, however, is bound by time. So you've got this huge non-conscious mind, which is actually way bigger than your conscious mind, and where all your thoughts, right from when you were born, even in the womb, when your brain was in a state where you could start building your thoughts, you actually have that's where they're swirling around. Literally, they're swirling around on this non-conscious level. So everything you think about. Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of this. Right now, if I have to say the word apple, just randomly, as I say the word apple, thoughts are popping up into your mind. I'm seeing this big pink apple that I know is in my kitchen at the moment. So I saw it, maybe an hour or so ago, a couple of hours ago. So that memory was in my brain, but I know I've had those same apples. I've bought them before, so I've actually remembered, and I suddenly remembered an apple orchard, and then a few things about cooking with apples, and there's a whole lot of images and memories that are popping up into my mind now as I'm talking about apples. And the more I talk about it, the more memories I'm getting. So what's coming up is coming from the non-conscious mind into the conscious mind, and it's shaping my view of apples. And I mean, that's a very simple basic example. Take something maybe a little bit more dramatic. Take something like maybe you watch a movie and you see a scene on a movie of someone being bullied, and that then triggers a whole bunch of thoughts that start moving from your non-conscious to your conscious mind. And maybe you were bullied, or maybe you know someone who was bullied, or maybe you were the bully, but memories are coming up. The point here is that we store everything. And where do we store it? In our mind. That's on one level, and then physically we store it in our brain. And you building these things. And the big thing about the non-conscious mind is that it's very fast swirling beyond space and time, which is also quite a complex concept, and we're going to be diving into that in another episode. But it's filled with all these memories, and they move from the non-conscious to the conscious mind like this. Can you see this, the way I'm using my hand? They kind of move up around about 5 to 7 in any one moment, and they move up one at a time, and then they go back, unless you grab them and focus on them. And how do we do that? So let's say now we think of you watch the movie, you see someone bullying someone, and you were bullied, and you've never dealt with that, and it brought back a very traumatic memory. And I'm going to use this toxic tree to demonstrate. And now suddenly this moves into your conscious mind, and you are viewing this movie that you're watching through this, and it's making you feel terrible, because now suddenly you realize there's something from your past that you haven't dealt with, and the pain from that, it's almost like a trauma that you experience, and you may have to, you may find it impacts you for the duration of the movie. When you come out the movie, you're still feeling kind of bad, and this is something that you need to address. So when something moves from the non-conscious into the conscious mind, and we become aware of it, the very good news is that when it moves from the non-conscious to the conscious mind, we can capture that thought. We can literally catch that thought. Now, in the movie, you want to watch the rest of the movie, so you're not going to do anything with it then. But you can make a conscious note in your mind, okay, that upset me. I need to deal with that. And this is what I want to try and start teaching. What I teach in my books is that we can't let these things just hang around. We need to deal with this stuff. This is toxic. This is actually causing brain damage. If you think of something, if something's moved from your non-conscious to your conscious mind, and you're aware of it, and it's made you feel bad, and you know it's something that's not a good thing, it's not one of these really nice memories, then it's something that's causing brain damage. And we know from research that when we keep these things and we think about them more, they grow. And if we just immediately shove them back down, which is suppressing them, when we do that, that's not a good thing to do, because they're still there. Where have you pushed them? Back into your non-conscious. So now they're swirling around your non-conscious. So let me show you. They're swirling around your non-conscious, and they're alive, and they are influencing your worldview. They're influencing, you know that feeling that you get when you can't quite put your finger on it, but you feel weird. You feel like you don't feel good. That's one of these that you haven't dealt with. That's in your subconscious level. So conscious, awake, aware, non-conscious, where all this action's happening, and as it's about to appear, that's your subconscious. So conscious, subconscious, non-conscious. And when you've just suppressed something, it's in your subconscious level. Then as the days go by and you continue to suppress it, you push it down deeper, The problem with that is it's still there. And the fact that it became conscious, it increased in its power, because as soon as you're aware of something, it changes. It becomes what we call malleable, which means changeable. So it kind of vibrates. These little branches become loosened, and the purpose of that is for you to redesign it, to break it down, because this is causing brain damage. You don't want brain damage. You want to get rid of the stuff. So this, if you don't do it, if you start pushing it into your subconscious, you start getting that feeling of uneasiness. Something's not quite right. And when you push it into your non-conscious, it's there doing damage, influencing your worldview. And depending on how many times you focus on it, it'll come back again. Each time it comes back, stronger than before. So when you bring it up here and you don't change it, you're going to add to the toxic level. So it goes back even stronger than before, which is not a good thing. Eventually, it will explode, volcanic mode. I give you an example of that. You know when we have a closet at the entrance to our house, and I don't know why I'm such a tidy person, but this closet is always stuffed full of everything. And every coat, everything that you can imagine that shouldn't be around the house gets stuffed in that closet, and it gets regularly cleaned out, but it happens again. And just recently we had some guests around, and I opened it to quickly put some shoes in that were left out, and literally nearly everything fell out the closet. And that is exactly what happens with these. They will eventually fall out the closet. They will eventually explode in volcanic mode, because they are damaging. They're not healthy. They're not part of your normal design, your normal functioning. So we need to deal with them. And that's what my book, Switch on Your Brain, does tell you about. I tell you in this book about these basic principles. I tell you how thoughts form. I tell you how we can capture these thoughts. I tell you how you can literally stand back and observe your own thinking. Okay, watch now. I'm standing here and I'm looking at healthy thoughts and I'm looking at unhealthy thoughts. You can literally stand outside of yourself and observe your own thinking. That's called the multiple perspective advantage. And it is phenomenal. It's an incredible ability that we have as humans to be able to observe the incoming signals, the upcoming signals, and we can stand back and observe and have a discussion with the spiritual part of us. We can kind of go in our head and have a discussion of, okay, this is coming up and this is how I'm viewing it and this is making me feel like this. We can actually go into this whole process of being able to self-analyze this. Now, this is our multiple perspective advantage. And when we do that, the front part of our brain fires up. Just a quick side note, when you are thinking and just being alive, your whole brain's always working. So sometimes there's been this sort of myth, there's a lot of nonsense out there about how the brain works in the mind and so on. And one of them is that we only use a very small percentage of our brain, and that's not accurate. Our whole brain is always being used. What happens is certain parts fire up a little bit more than others when we do certain things. So like, for example, when you stand outside of yourself and you observe your own thinking, the front part of your brain fires up more than the back part of your brain. But it doesn't mean that that part is producing that or whatever. So the whole brain's involved, and just at different times, as I said, the activity speeds up in the brain a little more. So in this multiple perspective advantage, it's very, very powerful, because it enables us not to suppress, but to recognize I need to do something. Come back to the bullying example, that you're watching a movie and you see something about bullying, and then you realize that it's upset you, and maybe you're a mother and it's happened to your child and or whatever, and you realize, hey, I got to do something about this. I don't feel comfortable with this. I can feel that I've got a level of discomfort. And that's great, so you can start working on that. So in this book, I teach you about that. I teach you about the multiple perspective advantage. I teach you about how you can bring thoughts into captivity. In the second part of this book, I have one of my favorite programs that I developed in my clinical practice based on my research and on my experience with patients. I mean, I work with so many amazing people over the years that they taught me so much. And I put one of my programs called my 21-day brain detox into this book. The second half of this book has this program where I show you how to, in 5 steps, how to bring the thought into captivity and how to redesign it. And there's a process that your brain goes through in doing that. And it's something, it's really easy. I mean, what I found with my patients is that I could tell them all this great science. And I mean, I love science. I'm a scientist. I can take you down levels of scientific stuff that you're not going to listen to me, because it's unless you love what I love, the science stuff. I couldn't do that with my patients. I had to take the science that I love and I had to break it down into very practical terms to help them and to help myself and my own family. I mean, everyone who knows me, they learn about this stuff because it really helps them. And basically, I've made it a 5-step process. The 21-day detox includes a 5-step process. This 5-step process is based on how the brain builds memory. So from the time that you're thinking about something to the time that the memory actually becomes a physical structure in your brain, it's going to go through 5 basic stages. And those are 5, I've built those into 5 steps. And those 5 steps you do for 5 to 7 minutes a day. You can go longer, but the maximum I would recommend when you're dealing with emotional stuff is I would go as about 16 minutes max. And that's based on scientific research, and I have loads of references in this book to explain why I recommend 5 to 7, maximum 16 minutes a day. And one of the main reasons is because when you're dealing with toxic issues, there's toxic emotions. Not only does this toxic thought have information, but it also has emotions. And when it's toxic, it can be overwhelming. It can be just too much to deal with. So you limit the time that you spend on that, and then you pretty much compartmentalize it. You put it down. It's not, you've captured it, so it's kind of going to go into its little box, and you're going to deal with it again tomorrow. So you just deal with little bits at a time. And what research shows, and I've been involved in this research in terms of timing and memory and breaking down memories and all this is what we're really talking about here, is that 5 minutes each day over a cycle of 21 days. So daily, 5 to 7 minutes a day, maximum 16 minutes. You do your 5 steps, and this breaks this thing down. Every time you're consciously aware of this, it's weakened. Every time that when we talk about breaking it down, we are literally you standing back, using that multiple perspective advantage, standing back in your healthy, normal default zone that I call the love zone, that I call where the healthy thoughts are, where the strength is, where this is the majority of who you are, and you're looking at that thing. You're literally distancing yourself from that toxic issue, and you are breaking it down one branch at a time, because there's all the associated thoughts. The core thought is the root thought is the tree, and there's all these associated thoughts, and you're breaking those down by building a healthy replacement thought. So as we break that toxic thinking associated pattern with that thought, you're building a healthy new replacement thought. So that goes eventually, it literally melts down. We remove the energy from there. So on a scientific level, these proteins denature because they're not getting energy to keep them alive. They need energy to keep them alive. So the proteins go away, they disappear, the energy goes over to this side, and now we start building these beautiful, healthy new thoughts. And as we build these healthy, beautiful new thoughts, we remember how we were, and there may be a few tears about the bullying, or a few tears about the emotions, about the abuse, or whatever happened in your life, but you're dealing with it. This is incapacitating. This keeps you stuck. This keeps you bound in a place where you feel like you can't move forward, where your thinking is foggy, where you're feeling sick. This is where we increase our vulnerability to disease by 75 to 98%. This is where disease is coming from. This is where the breakdowns in our life are coming from. So we don't want this. So we want to get rid of these one step at a time. And build the healthy new replacement thoughts. And I think by now you've gathered that this is not something you just do now and then. This is a lifestyle. We use this process to get rid of the little and the big stuff, and to make sure that we are constantly cleaning up our mind. And that's what this book tells you about. This book gives you the techniques for detoxing your brain and building a healthy new brain. So your mind is being detoxed, and in turn your mind detoxes your brain, and now you've got a healthier brain and a healthier mind. It's an ongoing process. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle of renewing your mind, and that is vitally important, because research shows that the following, that people are dying 15 to 25 years younger from preventable lifestyle diseases. And these lifestyle diseases specifically relate to our mind and how we're managing our mind and our diet. So I have lots more programs coming up, lots more books to tell you about. You can go to drleaf.com and you can see at my store I have lots of different books. I have online programs, I have apps, I have various different things to help you to learn all these things. And the point of this show is to give you the basic principles to help you to start living lifestyles where you can really feel that you are overcoming, to build hope back into you, and to realize that you create your realities, and to give you the tools and the ability to create the realities that you like. What kind of reality do you want in your life? What do you want in your head? What do you want in your mind? You are in control of that process. With your thinking, feeling, and choosing, you switch your brain on in the way that it is supposed to be switched on. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and this is the Dr. Leaf Show. Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and I'm so excited to tell you about my conference this year. We've got more sessions, we've got so many new exciting things, and one of the things I want to tell you about that's amazing is my Integrated Mind Network are going to be joining me again. This is a group of an amazing doctors, neurologists, neuroscientists, neurosurgeons, MDs, PCPs, endocrinologists, OBGYNs, brilliant men and women who are going to be helping us to understand the mind-brain connection in terms of science. So there's going to be a Q&A with them. They're going to be doing individual presentations. It's going to be mind-blowing because you're going in the good sense, because you're going to be seeing a lot of just how you can apply your lifestyle changes from a medical and scientific point of view. We've got more sessions. We've got so much happening. Join me this year in December in Dallas at my 2018 conference.